Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. Promoter Ben Shalom of Boxer said, I expect that after November 16th, when Katie Taylor fights Amanda Serrano, it becomes clear that she will not be returning to the lightweight division. Both those belts become vacant, and we'll see Carolyn become a world champion. Carolyn is in line to fight for the green belt, the WBC title. She is WBC interim champion. Via the WBA, it's a little different. Via the WBA, Canada's own Jessica Kamara is most in line to fight for the belt, and she's ranked at number 1, holding the gold version of the WBA title. Ranked right behind her is America's own Stephanie Hearn, the younger sister of former IBF featherweight champion Jennifer Hearn. Stephanie and Jessica are ranked at number 1 and number 2. And it's conceivable that if Katie drops the belt after Saturday, a fight between them could take place for the newly vacated title. That's one way it could happen. Another way it could happen is Ben Shalom could see about getting Caroline Dubois a Jessica Kamara fight at some point next year for both the WBC and WBA titles. That's another way it could happen. It might. It's all contingent upon Katie Taylor dropping those belts after this weekend, and it's contingent upon Ben making it happen. Say Ben making it happen because it feels like Boxer didn't do very much this year, and a good number of their fighters have been left in limbo, while some of them made appearances in Riyadh season cards, Riyadh season shows. We know Ben didn't pay for those. Sky didn't pay for those. Turkey and the Saudis paid for those. While Ben and Boxer and Sky themselves did not put on that many cards. And as a result of that, some of their fighters have been left in limbo. Karis Artingstall, Lauren Price, Natasha Jonas. We talked about that in another video. So ahead of the coming year, you do have to wonder, how much can Ben put together? How much of this can Ben actually make happen? Can he make this happen for Caroline Dubois? It's conceivable that she will get the WBC title. At minimum, she'll get that one. But a fight with Jessica or somebody else at the weight, that's something else. What I think? The people over at Matchroom know a lot more about Katie Taylor's schedule. When does she plan on dropping those titles, or when does she plan on going to lightweight? Just all of that. They know more about it. They're closer to her, right? To my knowledge, nobody's actually working on a Caroline Dubois versus Jessica Kamara fight. That's just me. That's just me bouncing ideas around. So what says that Matchroom can't do the same thing for one of their fighters? Say, former WBO champion Rhiannon Dixon. If she fights Jessica Kamara and beats her, she could become WBA champion, a 2-time lightweight champion. Or what if they get Terry Harper that fight? The chance for Terry to collect another alphabet title. What about Beatrice? 2-time Olympian, bronze medalist, current IBF lightweight champion Beatrice Ferreira, who's set to make her next in-the-ring appearance in Monte Carlo in the coming year. What says they can't get her a Jessica Kamara fight? That the same opportunity that's there for Carolyn and Boxer is also there for Eddie and Matchroom. Jessica Kamara is a person of interest. Back over to Katie. If she successfully defends her undisputed crown this weekend, I don't see why she would return to the lightweight division. That's if she wins. If she loses, then maybe. Remember that Ben is of the opinion that she'll drop both alphabet titles. Ben Shalom is the one saying that. Now maybe she drops the WBC, and maybe that goes to Carolyn, but what if she doesn't drop the WBA? What if she keeps it, and what if she goes back down? That's another scenario. And what if she fights Jessica Kamara in defense of it? What then? What if she fights her in a rebound fight? There's a number of ways this could all break down after this weekend. Though at minimum I feel Carolyn will obtain the green belt. What does she do after that? The other belts are on other sides of the street. The WBO title, the IBF, those are at Matchroom.
The WBA still is too.
And what is Carolyn's future? Because rumor has it, Sky Sports might not renew with Boxer next year. And if they don't, what happens to her?
Questions that will need answers after this weekend in the coming new year.
Don't even like it. No, when I like, no, he don't care. And I just told you the last 30 seconds, no, he don't care. And then after what he saw then, he know he fool. He don't got me. My son's been doing something different the last few days. Not days, about 2 weeks. That he's a more dominant fighter than he was that you saw in Santillon fight. I have no doubt in my mind. He done flip the switch. He flipped the switch once when he was 14. He flipped the switch with Santillon, and he just flipped another switch a couple weeks ago. I have no doubt in my mind he's gonna destroy whoever he get in the ring with.
Yeah, but you saying Boots is food?
Boots is food. Boots is food.
It is just tactless and tacky to reject a fight with that same Boots for a career-high payday. Money you don't make. Money you don't get, no one is offering you.
You turn down a fight with the guy so you can turn right around after somebody else fights him.
So you can start talking out of the side of your yap as if you did something. If you really believed what you were saying, if you really thought that Boots is food, that would have been you fighting him, but it wasn't.
Because you turned them down.
Tax deductions was the excuse, the cover story. Tax deductions were the reason. As if you don't have those same deductions in every other fight you're willing to accept for less money than you were offered. The truth is that Jaron Ennis and Brian Norman may never fight. Brian Norman's talkative father,
He'll be able to breathe a sigh of relief.
because all he's doing is writing checks that his son's ass can't cash. If you fought Jaron Ennis the way you fought Santi Liang, you just get knocked out that much faster, because it's movement that he struggles with. It's defense.
Not aggression.
And your son's aggressive. That's how he beat Santi Liang. That's how he normally fights. He's normally an aggressive fighter. That aggression would work against him with Boots, and you know that. That's why you turned the fight down, and that's why you wanted the moon and the stars for a fight with Boots. Because underneath it all, you know your son gets beat.
Your son loses.
Now, even if Boots were to get one of the other champions in the ring, I would sooner think it's Stanionis he gets in the ring, or Mario Barrios he gets in the ring, than Brian Norman, because Brian Norman and his father are afraid. That's why his father's so talkative. That's why he's still trying to save face. You would have been better off saying absolutely nothing, saying nothing at all.
Confidence is quiet.
Strong and silent, because you don't need to say anything. You don't need to fill the air with words.
You know what you can do.
And when the time comes, other people will too. That's why confidence, real confidence, tends to be silent, whereas Brian Norman Sr. is anything but silent. He's talkative, overly talkative.
Your son ain't gonna do shit.
He's not gonna beat nobody. If Boots is food, Brian ain't the one to eat him.
Brian is on a diet.
Brian is scared, and so are you. You already showed us that. There's no going back. There's no rewriting history, no undoing the past. You had your opportunity, and the truth is, now you and Boots might not never fight. And they were the only ones offering you anything semblant of a 7-figure payday. Nobody else is doing that. Not Mario Barrios, not a Stanionis, nobody at the PBC. They are not going to pay you that.
Your own promoter doesn't pay you that.
Did you put the Boots fight on the back burner because you're telling yourself, well, we still got that Lopez fight. We could always come back to that Lopez fight. Lopez is rumored to be in talks for a Devin Haney fight.
Not a fight with your son.
So when your son comes back after his fake injury, who else is going to offer him $1 million or in excess of $1 million? Who? Hard times at the PBC might force them to outsource one or some of their fighters, one or some of their champions. A Stanionis, Mario Barrios. Maybe Boots can get a fight with one or both of them, but Brian is going to keep running, and his father, he's just going to keep talking. The American boxing scene, in a very general sense, has a fascination with boisterous talkers, big talkers, a byproduct of the late, great Muhammad Ali. But Muhammad wasn't just a big talker, he was a big doer.
The best.
He wasn't just talking to be talking and talking because he's got a mouth like Brian Norman Sr. does. And don't you see that the people that were going up to bat for Brian Norman. The people that were defending his decision to reject Eddie Hearn's offer, they already lost interest. They were never fans of Brian.
They're still not.
You think that you can reject money you don't make from Matchroom to do what? Play it safe at Top Rank? Nobody's safe at Top Rank. They don't coddle their fighters. Quite the opposite. They put a good number of them in sink or swim situations. Do you think you're immune?
You're not.
They've put bigger draws than you in sink or swim situations. Guys who can actually sell tickets where you don't. If they didn't spare them that, why would they spare you? If Lopez is all tied up in negotiations for a potential Devin Haney fight, that means he's not fighting Brian Norman, and that was Brian's best bet to fight somebody, a known fighter. I can only deduce that they'll reschedule that Derek Cuevas fight, that they'll keep Brian busy with ham and egg guys until one of those ham and eggers beats him the way he beat Giovanni Santillan.
Because who was Brian Norman before he beat Giovanni Santillan? Who knew him? Who had heard of him?
Say, Boots leaves this division, moves up in weight, fights Virgil Ortiz. And whatever happens, happens.
Top Rank is not gonna bust the budget, break the bank to get you unification matches.
And the same is true in reverse. The PBC is not going to bust their budget to bring you over. I just don't see who's going to offer Brian what Matchroom already offered Brian. I don't see who's going to do it.
A solution.
Though his dad seems quite content to do the rounds on the podcasts to try to save face for him when we all know what happened. You ducked. It doesn't matter what happens afterwards. Boots could get beat tomorrow, and that wouldn't change that you ducked. Scared money don't make money.
Do you think we ever see Boots versus Crawford at this point?
Yes.
Really? In the next how many years?
Because I think it's very likely that Boots will fight Virgil Ortiz next.
Wow.
If he beats Virgil Ortiz, which I believe he does, then I think His Excellency will push to make Boots against Crawford. You see, Terence Crawford really knows his boxing, and he knows how difficult that fight is with Boots. So he'll want financially rewarding. So when that fight becomes big enough, I actually think it will happen. But until then, he's going to have to put in better performances against better opposition to earn the right to have that big money fight against Terence Crawford.
What sounds like a lot of wide-eyed optimism from Eddie Hearn. He thinks Boots is going to fight Crawford at some point. That makes one of us.
He thinks Virgil Ortiz is next?
Spoke with some certainty that Boots versus Ortiz would be next. For that to happen, Boots has got to abandon ship. He's got to give up his campaign to become the welterweight division's undisputed champion, and we've talked a lot about that. We've been all through it. Now entertaining the possibility that he does fight Virgil next. What happens? Who wins?
Setting aside all the variables, that Boots does abandon ship at 147, moves up to 154, Oscar doesn't mess about, Oscar doesn't mess around, he helps to make the fight happen, and the fight happens. Who wins?
Boots has the edge. Boots has the tactical advantage, the stylistic advantage, because Boots is a boxer puncher and Virgil is a pressure guy, a pressure fighter.
Like Sergey Lipinets, like Roman Villa.
He's a pressure guy, like those guys are pressure guys. Now, granted that he's likely a better grade of pressure fighter than those guys were, and he's bigger, punches harder.
At least harder than they do.
But he's a pressure guy. He's a pressure fighter, the same as them. I talked about this fight in passing 1 or 2 days ago, and the usual suspects, the usual tribalists got upset.
Listen, buddy, I don't care what you have in common with Virgil.
I don't give a shit if you're from the same state or from the same country as his daddy. What the hell's any of that supposed to mean to me?
Nothing.
I'm breaking down a fight. What the hell are you doing? Mulling over what commonalities you have with Virgil Ortiz? What the hell do I care? Save your hometown pride and your tribalism for the gate or the box office, as that's the only place that stuff is useful.
I always say, tribalism does have a place in all of organized sports, and that is either at the gate, purchasing a ticket to be at a fight, or at the box office, purchasing a pay-per-view. That's where tribalism is useful. But in a conversation like this one, I don't give a rat's furry ass what you got in common with Virgil.
What the hell is any of that supposed to mean to me? From what I can see, Virgil would be at a tactical disadvantage with Jaron Ennis.
Why?
You got a lot of people piping up after this past Saturday's fight how Karen Chukadzian made Jaron Ennis look, and he did make Jaron Ennis look bad. The disconnect is Virgil don't fight nothing like that guy. all the stuff Karen did that gave Virgil problems, the movement, the pendulum step, the counters off the pendulum step, Virgil doesn't do any of that stuff.
He doesn't bounce in and out of striking distance like that. He's a pressure guy. He comes forward.
He doesn't have a hop. He doesn't fight on the balls of his feet. He plants his feet to sit on his punches because he's a pressure fighter.
A mid-range to inside pressure guy who the majority of a round and the majority of a fight, he wants to sit in the pocket, he wants to let punches go while coming forward.
So much is being made about how bad Jaron Ennis looked this past weekend. And he did look bad, but for as bad as he looked, yeah, I thought he won.
7 rounds to 5.
Tack on that Karen Chukatsian was down, he decided to take a knee, that's a 10-8, and tack on that he was deducted a point for excessive holding. Jaron Ennis was the clear winner. It was competitive, it was tough in spots, but I felt he won, whereas Virgil, I didn't think he beat Sergei Bohachuk. I didn't think he won his last fight.
Sorry.
Just being honest, that for as bad as Jaron Ennis looked this past weekend, he didn't get knocked down 2 times like Virgil did.
You want I should pretend that didn't happen? You know, because of all the stuff you and Virgil have in common. Like I'm supposed to care.
You're gonna tell me that Boots has leaky defense. You're gonna tell me that he gets hit too much. You know who gets hit more than he does? Virgil.
Virgil Ortiz.
I'm not saying that Virgil's a bad fighter. I'm just saying he does get hit more than he does. That's why he's been downed more times than Jaron Ennis. 2 times by Sergei Bohachuk. I remember some fights ago, he was also downed by Mean Machine, by Igis Kavaliauskas at 147.
You think Boots has got leaky defense? So does Virgil.
I remember the Mighty Mo Hooker fight. Mighty Mo Hooker was landing some hard punches. He was landing some hard shots. Virgil took them well. He took the punches well, but they were still getting in. So when I think about a fight between Virgil and Jaron Ennis, well, they both have leaky defense. They both do. But one of them is still more defensively sound than the other, compared to the other.
I'd give Virgil the edge in power. Maybe he's a harder puncher than Jaron Ennis.
Maybe.
And if nothing else, he would be the biggest puncher that Jaron Ennis will have ever faced.
So you can give him that intangible, that if Virgil gets in with a couple of good ones, maybe he does hurt Jaron Ennis. But stylistically, Ennis has the edge.
Boxer punches trouble pressure fighters because pressure fighters have one way of fighting a fight. They've got one gear. Come forward, let punches go.
Some are better than others, but that is the gist of their methodology, whereas the boxer puncher, it's all in the name. They can box when they need to, punch when they need to, move when they need to, hold their ground,
Hold their feet.
assert themselves when they need to. It's alternating that gives the pressure guy so many problems. You go from having to chase the guy down, trying to catch him, to the guy backing you up and backing you off when he takes the offensive. Boxer punchers, historically, give pressure guys a lot of issues.
That's why Liam Paro was able to beat Subriel Matias.
And that's why Boots Ennis has a tactical edge over Virgil Ortiz. Now, whether or not that fight will really happen next, I mean, Eddie might want to make it, but I don't trust that Oscar does.
Prove me wrong.
Because I'd be happy to be wrong in this scenario if we can get this fight next. I would love it. Why wouldn't I love it?
Make the fight.